What's going on, everybody? So today I thought I would do another quick 10-minute teardown. Now you'll note that the item in question is already apart, and there's a backstory to that. So today I'm looking at the Syba USB to audio converter. Now these can be found very inexpensively on Amazon, Newegg, and the like, and they're around $8. So I paid a couple bucks for this, really honestly less than the cord that plugged into it. Now the backstory was I was looking for a way to get audio out of an ARM A7 controller board. And so this board's very similar to a Raspberry Pi or the like, and it has no onboard audio. There are a couple solutions to this, but really the simplest and cheapest just came down to buying this cheap audio adapter, and I actually extended the USB port, hence why it's already apart and why the USB is all the way over there. The dev board in question was actually enclosed in a case, and so there wasn't a ton of room, but that's not a problem because it was easy to manipulate. Now, the backstory on this board is a little bit interesting. It's an incredibly popular item on Amazon with thousands of reviews, and most of the people who use it are fairly satisfied. Now, the big up for this item is that it does not need any external drivers. So I believe for Windows, Mac, and Linux, it just works natively. You plug it in and it works. Audio comes out of it if you select the right audio output. And so you might need to do some settings tweaking, but that's about it. As an aside, this is good for one thing. It's good for if you have a computer that has a broken headphone port, or you have something that does not have an audio driver, so like a Raspberry Pi. If your computer already has a sound card, or the headphone jack works, or the speakers work, it's almost 100% guaranteed that those are going to be higher quality than this item. So that's the caveat. This works great, it's cheap, but the sound quality is awful. Now, if you have no other choice, obviously that's what you pick, or if you're going for a cheap price range for a project, that's also more than okay. But be aware, this is not a high quality USB sound card, and in fact there is no output driver. It comes straight off the chip, so we'll look at that in a minute. That being said, it's a great solution for projects or the like where you're hoping to get cheap audio output at budget level. What this is composed of, we can see the top side here. We've got a headphone out. We've actually got a line in, which is very interesting and a cool feature, so you can actually have a microphone, and I'll get to why this is there for a second. It's not there because it's cool, it's there because it's easy. There's a crystal oscillator, likely 12 megahertz. I can't actually read that right now. A couple of resistors, and what looks like bulk decoupling. These are polytantalum capacitors. So let's flip it over and look at the other side. There's really only one significant part on the whole backside. You'll notice that there's this it looks like 48 LQFP package here, which is obviously the main controller. And then we've also got a space, but no mounting for an SO8. So there's a couple of other passives here, namely a few inductors. There's 4 or 5 inductors on here. And I can tell you what those are for. Those are just to filter the power coming in. And then also there's an inductor in series with each input and output on these lines. This chip, the main chip here, is a CM-119. Now, I was able to find a datasheet on this pretty easily. I'll link it right here. And this is a very interesting chip, and this whole part actually makes sense after you look what this chip's for. So this chip, I'll read the description because it is written better than I can explain. CM-119 is a highly integrated single-chip USB audio controller, wait for it, specifically for VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol. That pretty much sums everything up. You don't even need to read another line in the datasheet because suddenly everything about this and the way it functions makes sense. This chip is actually intended to be used for an internet phone or cheap internet phone devices. Now, VoIP is something like a Magic Jack, or Vonage was really the first company to do it, but they weren't very cheap. But now it's super cheap. You plug into a USB port and you can make and receive phone calls. Now that suits the functionality of how this device works perfectly. And that's why this mic input is kind of a bonus, because it's actually just a feature intended to be used with cheap electric mics in a like a internet phone handset or adapter. And so that's why it's on there. It's not on there because it's an added feature. It's on there because it added them 1 cent or whatever the headphone connector costs to add. Now, that also explains the horrible audio performance, because when you're doing internet phone, you don't really care about quality. You want to be able to hear the other person on the other side. You want to be able to talk back to them, and you want it to be cheap. No one wants to pay $100 for a hi-fi internet phone because you're just having a phone conversation. CM-119 actually says, see if I can find it here, it's got 48K, 44.1 kHz sampling rate for both playback and recording. Well, that's really pretty crappy. I mean, any high fidelity audio is going to be much higher than that. That sits right around CD quality, I believe. And so, like I said, that's not a problem because this is $8. I mean, it's an $8 price point. You can't really ask for much, but it really explains a lot. So now there's one more thing that I'll mention here. This guy, which is an unpopulated SO8, my guess is that's for an SPI EEPROM. And so they basically, the datasheet even mentions it in one of the first few lines, that you can include an external EEPROM and record in a specific device ID and manufacturer ID, which then lets this allow itself to identify itself as a certain internet adapter or internet phone adapter, but you don't really care about that. That being said, that's really all there is to see inside this Syba audio adapter. Like I said, the price point, you can't beat it. If you're doing a low-cost project and you want some audio out of your Raspberry Pi, or your headphone jack broke on your computer and you just can't tide yourself over, this is a great part. But do not be expecting really anything above CD quality out of this. So if you're looking for a USB DAC that will boost the performance of your headphones, for example, or for a line-out drive, this is not what you're looking for. You're looking for something like a FiO E10 or the equivalent. That being said, that's about all I've got to say about this guy. Let me know if there's anything in specific you want to see, and thank you.